Welcome back to Marvelous Videos. I'm Rylan, and today we will be taking a look at some of the terrifying creatures of Middle-earth that you can watch in the Rings of Power. The brand new series based on the Lord of the Rings, named The Rings of Power, which is based on the existing text and movies involving Lord of the Rings, is a series on Amazon, and it transports us to the fascinating region of Middle-earth. As we progress through the series, we will delve further into this realm and encounter locations that have never before been portrayed on TV. That includes meeting a slew of new and exciting Middle-earth beasts. Along with the countless races of men and elves that fill the realm, there is a host of Tolkien's most captivating and terrible inventions. Here are some of the most horrifying monsters from Middle-earth that we've encountered so far in the Rings of Power. But before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is just a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thanks. Now, let's begin. Valinor's Spirit Birds. Amam, which is the name of a continent present to the far west of the fictitious land of Middle-earth, was created by the gods of Middle-earth, who were known as the Valar, who created the continent as the ideal location on the planet for elves. At the beginning of time, Middle-earth's supreme creator and deity, the magnificent Eru Ilúvatar, formed the Valar to serve as the world's guardians, and to transform the world structure into something that would be suitable for Ilúvatar's next creations, the elves. They were not sufficiently powerful to make all of the Middle-earth a utopia, so after creating all of the fish, birds, and animals, as well as the mountains, rivers, valleys, seas, and the majority of the stars, they focused on creating an elf homeland, which was said to be on the far west. And when they did find the very first elves, they spent a very long time gaining their faith and confidence, and helping guide them to the land of Amam, with a few factions of elves selecting to remain behind at various choke points like mountainous regions, or one of the numerous ocean coasts, leaving a tidy path of many distinct elven civilizations for Tolkien to experiment with throughout the journey of the Silmarillion, which contained the historical background of Middle-earth that existed before the narration of the Lord of the Rings. The Valar and the Elves formed the land of Valinor and the continent of Amam. Valinor is Asgard and Valhalla, and it is heaven, and in some senses, Eden. And then, within the marvelous land of Valinor, is the kingdom of Mandos, who is Middle-earth's deity of the afterlife. Of course, the land of Middle-earth, as well as the rest of Tolkien's imaginary universe, are places of immense wonder and beauty. As a result, many of the fictitious beasts that reside in the Great Land make us happy and bring us great joy, and we receive a taste of this thrill when the Lord of Power unveils Valinor, which is the beautiful elven realm. Elrond recalls the voyage into Valinor earlier in one of the episodes in the series. When you cross over, he says, you hear a melody whose memories we all possess, and you are enveloped in a light more dazzling than any feeling in all of Middle-earth. And this is precisely what we see in front of us. But Elrond does fail to name some of the most magnificent animals which make an appearance in the Rings of Power. A flock of magnificent seabirds appears in the air as Galadriel and all the remainder of the elves get ready to cross over. These birds appear to be from Manwë, who is a major god in Middle-earth mythology. In the book The Silmarillion, we discover that all birds are precious, so it's only natural that he greets the elves' return with a flock of them. Wolves or werewolves. It seems that werewolves do exist in the mythical land of Middle-earth, though we've never seen them on television. Gandalf describes them explicitly to Frodo in the novel named The Fellowship of the Ring, where he is detailing the nature of Sauron's forces. In truth, werewolves in Middle-earth, like so many of Tolkien's creatures, have a long and intriguing past. Tolkien's werewolves, like those in plenty of other writings and mythology, were villains who served evil forces. Tolkien's werewolves, however, have no relationship with the moon, unlike most werewolves in other myths. Werewolves, like orcs, served Sauron and played a significant role in his vast army. The werewolves who lived in Middle-earth were dangerous opponents, both psychologically and physically. The Dark Lords Morgoth and Sauron were the original creators of werewolves, after they corrupted the huge and magnificent wolf Draughlin. All of the werewolves are Draughlin's progeny and his descendants, and have battled on Sauron's side ever since. Carcharoth, who is the fiercest of the werewolves, was the one who defended Morgoth's northern stronghold Angband. Grond, the massive battering ram seen during the War of the Rings attack on Minas Tirith, was modeled after Carcharoth, who was a descendant of the wicked bloodline of Draughlin, and he had become powerful due to the consumption of a diet of the flesh of men and elves, which was fed to him by the evil Morgoth himself. Werewolves have never previously been shown on screen in any version of Tolkien's books before, and Rings of Power may be the first adaptation to do so. Throughout this Lord of the Rings television series, these evil wolves are on the prowl. Inside the Rings of Power, however, the wolves of Middle-earth could be more than ordinary beasts. Nori Brandyfoot, along with a group of a few other Harfoots, almost came face to face with one of these wild monsters in what seems like a berry field, but they're saved by a warning track. The track that the group sees, on the other hand, is enormous, and when we spot the wolf, something greater appears to be at work. When all of the wolves hunt the Harfoots while they move through the spooky woodland, we experience the same feeling once again. Wargs and werewolves are two wolf-like animals found in the Lord of the Rings universe. Werewolves are wolves made for evil by Sauron, according to Middle-earth folklore. Sauron trapped an evil, malevolent spirit inside the body of each wolf, producing a new species of beast. But now that we've encountered a warg, we understand that this wolf has always been something special. So, we're back to waging on the Rings of Power, actually showing us a werewolf. Wargs. In the books and movies of Lord of the Rings, a warg is a sort of demonic wolf that is used by orcs in warfare. They are famed for their vicious wolf-like features, and have appeared a few times in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings blockbusters, and have made a few cameos in the Hobbit trilogy as well. They have a massive mouthful of razor fangs, and are scary to see in battle. They are also extraordinarily lethal and quite vicious. But the warg we see exploding from the orc hideaway in the Rings of Power, on the other hand, is far more fearsome. In the third episode of the Lord of the Rings series, the Rings of Power left Elrond and Durin behind to focus on Nori, Galadriel, and Arondir. But while Galadriel roams Numenor and travels along the coastlines, life is considerably worse and unforgiving for the imprisoned elf named Arondir, who is being kept in an orc camp in the Southlands. Reunited with his regiment and family, he must figure out how to flee and alert the world about what he has witnessed. However, at the conclusion of the episode, Rings of Power enthusiasts are plucked from the terrifying experience. Arondir and his comrades find themselves at odds with the orcs, while attempting to save an ancient tree from destruction after one of their own is slain. The violent action sequence swiftly develops, and the orcs retreat in order to free the warg. Wargs are depicted as being massive, clever, and malicious wolves, and could possibly be type of werewolf. The term warg is derived from the Old Norse word vorgner, which means wolf. In the third episode of the TV series based on the Lord of the Rings, named The Rings of Power, the viewers encounter the heinous wargs. These wargs are wolf-like in appearance, and utilized as bloodthirsty attack dogs by the evil orcs. The wargs also have a fierce growl and even more lethal fangs. In comparison to the elegant terror of the werewolves that may possibly exist in the show, they seem to be a far more ferocious type of beast in the Lord of the Rings. The wargs we encounter in the Rings of Power strike with pure evil instincts and a thirst for blood. Wargs are a kind of wolf that reside deep within the mysterious Misty Mountains, according to Tolkien's legend. Wargs were connected to the orcs and occasionally goblins in the Lord of the Rings, and they certainly follow that tradition in the Rings of Power. That is awful news for our beloved elves, Harfoots, and other creatures. The Worm. The Lost Road and the other writings mention sea serpents or fish dragons as a type of dragon. Sea serpents were actually dragons that dwelt in fresh water in rivers and lakes, or the salt waters of the sea. They are not referenced in any Arda-based series, although they are referenced in the Lost Road and other writings within the section of Elvish etymologies. The worm is also a kind of sea snake. In Quenya, a sea serpent is known as a Lingwilloch, while in Nolodrin, it is known as an Imlug. Even though the second episode of The Rings of Power Power did not give us a complete and detailed view of the sea monster, known as the Worm, it did show enough to get a sense of how gigantic and dangerous this creature really was. The Worm has a snake-like body structure, implying that it's a sea serpent. If you've ever read any fantasy story, you will know how in actuality, sea serpents are similar to the magnificent dragons of the sea. With the enormous size and unrivaled strength, this creature, known as the Worm, could quickly capsize any ship and destroy everything in its path. It's worth noting that Tolkien never even mentioned any specific sea serpents in Middle-earth, and the only monster that resembles a sea serpent to ever make an appearance is the Watcher. The Watcher in the water appeared in the Fellowship of the Ring, and seized Frodo using one of his tentacles when he and the rest of the party attempted to enter Moria through the West Gate. But we never saw how the Watcher appeared in the literature, so no one actually knows for sure if it was even a sea serpent or any other type of sea monster. The Sundering Seas is yet another new place that is included and introduced in the Rings of Power. When the elves travel from the Grey Havens, they must traverse the mysterious waters west of Middle-earth in order to arrive in Valinor. But of course, just like any other sea or ocean, the waters of Middle-earth are home to monsters and beasts that we would prefer never to encounter. Galadriel is content with her decision not to travel to Valinor, but she finds herself stuck in these monster-infested seas. The sea serpent known as the Worm in the Rings of Power glides through the murky waters of the Sundering Seas, unleashing devastation. Galadriel encounters a group of individuals whose ship was destroyed by the wicked creature in the Wings of Power, and she almost ends up in the beast's belly herself. Although the Worm appears to attack everyone indiscriminately, we think that this vicious Middle-earth monster is controlled by Sauron. However, unfortunately, nobody really has any information about the creature that was recently featured in the Amazon series. Because of the location, the original Lord of the Rings books and movies do not really deal with much information about the sea monsters, but Rings of Power is situated in a separate time frame and has greater creative flexibility in bringing new characters to the plot, so it would be fascinating to look into the types of beasts that used to reside in the waters of Middle-earth, but were not really covered fully in the novels. The series is set in Middle-earth's Second Age, and it has already introduced fans to a slew of new characters, so a sea monster, on the other hand, would be a fantastic addition to this popular show. We're definitely crossing our fingers to see more of the Worm. Snow Troll. Helm Hammerhand was referring to a snow troll during his solo attacks against the powerful Dunlendings at the time of the long winter that lasted from the years of TA 2758 to 2759. Helm's instructions were remembered for eternity in the land of Dunland, and people who heard about the elusive and specific type of troll were absolutely terrified. There is no additional known allusion to this type of troll in J.R.R. Tolkien's works. Therefore, it is unclear whether snow trolls ever existed in Arda, even as myth. Snow trolls, just like the half-trolls, have appeared in a variety of versions of the books and movies. Trolls have evolved to live in the ice and snow. There is no mention of snow trolls in Tolkien's works. All of this information is completely based on the assumption and on the premise that all trolls originated in about the same period. Trolls in general appear to have existed from the First Age, or before. However, it cannot be proven that snow trolls were ever more than a recent evolution or outcome of Sauron's breeding programs. Galadriel leads her band of elves to the vast regions of northern Middle-earth in the very first episode of the Amazon show based on the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. The audience is taken along for the adventure as the elves approach the icy elms of the land of Frodowaith, which is also popularly known as the northernmost waste, in pursuit of an orc and in search of the stronghold of Sauron. While the orcs and their dark lord have long fled, the darkness in the fortress has not. A snow troll is the only creature that thrives there. We don't learn much about this nasty Rings of Power beast, but we do know that the troll is formidable, since there is no light in this part of Middle-earth, and certainly not too many living beings for that matter. But Galadriel eliminates it before it is able to do very much damage. Snow trolls are referenced just once in Tolkien's literature, in Appendix A of the text of The Lord of the Rings. But this terrifying beast of Middle-earth has often been brought back in the computer games before, most recently in the TV show The Rings of Power. With bad omens mounting and Sauron's sigils sprouting around them every turn, we might not have witnessed the final appearance of the gigantic snow troll.
Channeled all his hatred into the tree to destroy it. amidst their duel unending.
Balrogs. Balrogs, who were also known as the Valeruca, were originally Maiar, who were poisoned and corrupted into Melkor's service. Originally, the Balrogs seem to have been fiery Maiar, who were tempted to join Melkor's cause after seeing his enormous power and magnificence in unrecorded ancient days. Their initial home was in Thangorodrim's castle of Atumno, but upon their master's downfall during the War of the Good of the Elves, all the Balrogs and other monsters in Melkor's service ran off to Angband and proceeded to hibernate there. Balrogs appeared in periods as early as the time of the Years of the Trees, when Ungoliant and Melkor journeyed to Valinor and felled the two trees. The Balrogs had stayed in the Angband pits by this period of time. Morgoth returned to the remains of Angband to once again establish his rule over the vast land of Middle-earth, after destroying the trees with the help of Ungoliant. After a serious argument with the powerful Ungoliant, she attacked him, and Morgoth let forth a colossal yell, rousing the sleeping Balrogs from their deep slumber. The Balrogs then pursued her and chased her away in a hail of fire, and were completely prepared to follow her. They were, however, asked to stop their pursuit by Morgoth, and then proceeded to go back to Angband, which was soon brought to its original glory once again. Balrogs were often towering, terrifying entities that resembled humans, but appeared to be made of or surrounded by darkness and flames. They wielded a blazing sword as well as a ferocious whip. They were always on fire, and their weapons seemed to be molten. In the first age, Gothmog, who is the lord of the Balrogs, wielded a black axe as well. The existence of the Balrogs' wings is unconfirmed, and much discussed. Balrogs appear to embody and exude power and horror, maybe as a dark cloud of the Valar's magnificence. Furthermore, Tolkien describes Balrogs as having flowing fiery manes. Additionally, they might have had the ability to change their body structures on occasion, like when the Balrog plunged into a body of water during the battle against Gandalf and Durin's Bane and transformed into something slimy. Balrogs were extremely formidable beasts. Nearly 7 Balrogs were necessary to drive away the great and powerful Ungoliant, who was a massive creature capable enough to swallow the fruit of Telperion, and was also known as the Silver Tree of Valinor, which generated light for a countless number of stars. Durin's Bane, a solitary Balrog, drove the strong dwarves of the land of Khazad-dûm off their age-old and magnificently defended home, which had been the greatest dwarven kingdom that had ever existed. It also clashed with Gandalf, and they both killed each other. The Balrogs were so physically dexterous that their movement was often said to be a tempest of fire. Gothmog also fought and defeated Fëanor, an elf who was regarded as one of the most powerful of the children of Iluvatar. One also wreaked chaos on the realm of Gondolin, which was filled with mighty elves, a sinister beast rising from the depths in the 7th episode of the Rings of Power. All of the dwarven evacuation from Mithril appears to have awoken a dangerous menace in their minds, namely the Balrog. The Balrog is a strong spirit who becomes evil at the command of Morgoth, the Lord of the Rings legend. The Balrog from the land of Khazad-dûm has awoken a little earlier than we expected, but we have no doubt that this would soon cause a lot of difficulty for the dwarves and so many others. As Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power proceeds to air, we may expect to see many more of Middle-earth's impressive beasts. Hopefully, there will be fewer that would devour our favorite characters, and more than we can enjoy watching. In any case, we're looking forward to continuing our journey through Tolkien's realm. And with that, we conclude today's episode of Marvelous Videos. If you liked our content, then please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Until next time, have a good one and be safe.